there are some Democrats that are pushing for the Supreme Court to dial back just a little bit the explicit corruption, the accepting of massive bribes. You've got Dick Durbin actually requesting that the Chief Justice John Roberts testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. That's not gonna happen. Who does Dick Durbin think he is? I mean, it's just the Senate after all. Supreme Court justice doesn't have to come there. He's not going to. Instead, they sent a document. Here's what it is. A statement on ethics and principles signed by all 9 justices said that the court was seeking to bring new clarity to how it approaches ethics issues. It said that the Supreme Court has voluntarily opted to follow the substance of the regulations for lower courts set out by the Judicial Conference, the judicial branch's internal policy-making body, including financial disclosure mandates and its limits on gifts. Now, Dick Durbin said that recent assurances from the Supreme Court in response to the ethics-related inquiries were a defense of the status quo and that the justices were oblivious to the obvious. And I don't think I've ever agreed with him more. He closes by saying the Supreme Court could step up and fix this themselves. For years they have refused, and because the court will not act, Congress must. And there's a detail in what we just described for you that I think is really important, which is all 9 of them signed on to that. Because look, there have been a lot of stories of corruption that have come out over the past month or so. If I had to choose a leader, it would be Clarence Thomas. He has done the most explicit corruption. He gets the gold star. Congratulations to Clarence Thomas. Kavanaugh obviously got into his position with some incredibly concerning issues. I'm just talking about the financial ones, let alone all of his personal conduct issues. Neil Gorsuch was revealed to have also had a sort of sweetheart real estate deal. And so those are some of the conservatives, but it's not like the liberals have gotten off looking that much better. All of them appear to have been receiving for years these cushy teaching jobs, which are effectively long-term paid for international vacations that then come with their friends and colleagues being able to go on the vacation as they gallivant around foreign countries, teaching a little bit. And we also know Sonia Sotomayor didn't recuse herself from a case involving a book publisher that had paid her millions of dollars. Now, that was pointed out by a right-wing blog. One would think that that would then result in the right being like, oh, okay, well now it's bipartisan, we should do something. It unfortunately has resulted in them saying, well now it's bipartisan, now let's just move on to something else. But all of them clearly have issues. All of them, Republican or Democrat nominated, need to be held under far more stringent codes of conduct. And so far, we could have a leader on the Democratic side, but he's AWOL. The best we have right now is Dick Durbin, which doesn't give me a lot of confidence that something's gonna happen.
Yeah, so I'll address all those real quick. So Sonia Sotomayor is probably my favorite Supreme Court justice. I think she's done a great job with a lot of the rulings, and she should be held to the same standard as everyone else. And her going along with the right wingers here is atrocious, and it's just atrocious. And all the so-called liberals going along with them is atrocious partly because of what John is saying. They think, well, if they get Clarence Thomas, they're not gonna like my trips all across the world, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's already terrible, okay? And then number 2, there's a collegiality. So hey, we're all friends, sometimes we have lunch together, and so it turns out Clarence is a crook, so I'm gonna let him off. No, that's the exact opposite of your job as a judge, let alone a Supreme Court justice. So no cookies for anyone, and we're a rare network here that does not do things blindly based on which side we're on, so shame on those Supreme Court justices that are theoretically left-wing and have signed on to this trash, okay? And I don't care if they're friends with Clarence Thomas. I don't care if Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders are friends. I don't care about any of that. I'm sick of this goddamn corruption, and we don't agree with the right wing. That doesn't mean, oh, then forget about it. No, it means hold them all accountable. Okay, that's how you deal with things honestly. In terms of the politicians, the right wingers, as always, the Republican politicians are jokes. Hilarious jokes, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, implying that they're doing this to poor Clarence Thomas because the Democrats are racist. So everybody's woke, oh yeah, the racism doesn't even exist, wipe it away from the history books, you're all woke. Oh, one of our guys, and he's deeply corrupt, oh, you're being racist. Come on, you guys are a hilarious joke. Right-wing voters, if you don't see, you see that. If you don't see that, come on. The media should never take Republican politicians seriously. They're like the most dishonest people in the whole country by a lot, okay? So then finally on the Democrat side, there are a couple of senators that are trying including Sheldon Whitehouse, who did a great speech about this just the other day, and it made me think like, oh wow, there are principled, smart senators apparently on some issues, and he kept insisting on, are you guys going to regulate yourselves? If not, you're forcing us to take action, because you're rubbing the corruption right in our face, right? Ha ha, they paid my wife directly. We pocketed that money and spent it all day long. And then we voted in favor of Harlan Crow and everyone else. Ha ha, that is not a goddamn acceptable answer. And I don't care what stupid Democrat coincides onto it.
Just one thing I want to say, which is I think the litmus test here shouldn't be about liberal versus conservative. It should be about who is willing to stand against corruption, whether they're conservative, liberal, progressive, or something else altogether, and who's willing to continue to endorse and reinforce a situation which basically is one of the major reasons why so many Americans feel cynical about our government and feel like this government doesn't work for them.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.